Alright guys, welcome to another live stream of a pre-recorded video from yours truly, Kaiserbergen. Tonight we're going to be going over an all-important tech stack tier list. That's right, I'm going to be handing you my expertise in different technologies to tell you what you should be using in your solutions. Now, some of you may be asking, who is this Kaiserbergen guy and can I trust him? Well, let me tell you a bit of a story about where I come from. You see, some time ago, Microsoft reached out to me to help them with their just really bad sales in Azure and their declining profits. And so I really helped them really move into the streamer space and purchase Beam and turn it to Mixer and become really the streaming empire that Microsoft is right now. So you know that I know technology, you know that I know marketing, and you know that I know all these things to make you successful. So that being said, don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe, smash that notification bell, and be sure to click on my 10 affiliate links at the bottom description or in these little icons that pop all over your screen. Also, make sure that you listen to this ad to its completion. Thank you. Alright, boys and girls, we're back here with the tier list. Thanks for listening to that all-important message from our sponsor, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. Alright, so let's get started here. We have a tier here from trash tier all the way up to A tier, and we've got a lot of common technologies that people might be familiar with here, or might be wondering if they should create their next solution in it. So let's go ahead and get right started. Let's jump right into it. Let's get right in there and talk about this just like right immediately at the beginning of this video. We're just gonna like right there, we're gonna be right, you, me, all of us right there, right at the start. We're just gonna jump right in. It's gonna be kind of cold, but we're just gonna do it anyways. Okay. All right. So we're gonna start here with at the bottom. We're gonna have a start with our trash tier, right? So let's dive right into it with the. We're gonna put Azure Functions here right at the trash tier. Now you may be thinking, but Azure Functions, those are pretty cool, but actually you'd be wrong. So they look cool. They have all these metrics, but really they exist to make a shloads of money for Microsoft because once you turn on the logging, it costs you about $2 million per Azure function just to run. So, and then you start using it, and it's like this custom runtime. So basically, it's like they're feeding you this like turd, but it's wrapped in like a $2,000 bun, and you're like, well, this is going to be a great sandwich, and you bite right into it. But when you bite into it, you are immediately reminded that you are in fact eating a turd, and this turd is just disgusting. And it's not just like a mushy one; it's like one that's hard on the outside and mushy on the inside. Kind of like a hot pocket turd there in the middle of your sandwich. Nobody wants that. But like I said, it makes Azure a lot of money. And in fact, every time you start up a new Azure function, they sink a new data center into the ocean because it's actually cheaper to run a data center at the bottom of the ocean than it is to run an Azure function. So that's why it's rounded out here at the bottom of trash tier. It's absolutely terrible. I cannot recommend it, unless you're Microsoft, of course. Now, moving around from there, we are, of course, going to go with our most iconic duo here of DB2 and mainframe. Now, uh, just like Microsoft has perfected making money off of you from Azure Functions, they really just ripped that off from IBM with their DB2 and their MIPS and all that stuff. So, they're in there, they're making money even more than Microsoft, even more than Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitters and Netflix. And that's why they're, so insanely successful today. And that's why IBM is, really where they are right now, at the forefront of technology. Everybody's talking about them. Everybody's using their libraries. Um, and really their libraries are super high quality. Some of their libraries that I've been using have like way even better error reporting than other standard libraries. Like here's an example of what happens when you use their DB2 library and there's like an authorization issue. Like you get a really informative message here, and then this is what happens if, say, you mess up your query. They really give you the information that you need to kind of continue your workflow and just really improve what you're doing. And this is also the message that you get if you actually just try to use it in a project in production. It's just so you know what you're getting into. Really, but 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 like I said, it's just too expensive, so that's why it has to be in trash tier. Otherwise, I would have to create S tier for this because it's just their technology is just so amazing. Anyways, we're going to move right along. So that's going to actually round out the total of our trash tier. So now we're going to go into D tier, and this is stuff that, you know, um, it's not trash, but it's really just not serviceable. It's not something that I would recommend for your new, projects or existing projects, or anything like that. So we're actually going to start off here with the D tier starts with the all Oracle products. Now you may be thinking, but wait, Oracle is a great company, and you would be right. Like traditionally, like in the past, they've been really cool. Like back in 1983 when they invented the airplane, um, they were a really cool company. And you can watch this documentary about when Howard Drews started Oracle, and he created this really great airplane company that he fueled. There were actually no computers in 1982, and so he had to drink just nonstop Diet Mountain Dew to computationally work on these mathematics for his brain to create these planes. And then we all know what happened after that. They divested his stocks, and so there's a follow-up documentary about his battle with the evil Tom Hanks, who took all his stocks and threw him out of the company, and his second rise to power as he founded Southwest Airlines. So once again, that is old Oracle. New Oracle is definitely not as innovative as Howard Drews has now left the company, and it is now founded by Tom Hanks. And they just like to buy things and just let them sit there and not do anything with them. And that's why really TikTok partnered with Oracle so that they can avoid actually having to do anything ethical in their practices with the United States, because they know that Oracle actually doesn't even have developers anymore, and they don't even make airplanes anymore. So they're really just they're borderline trash tier, but they did give us airplanes, so I can't really put them in trash tier. So they will at least be in D tier. Who knows? We'll see what the future holds. Maybe they'll be able to move up to C tier. We never know. Anyways, coming up next is Dynatrace. Now you might think, hey, Dynatrace, that's a really great company, and it really provides me a lot of flexibility and lets me see my logs. It's really cool, and I would agree with you up until the point where I'm watching YouTube videos for my tier lists, and like this commercial pops up, right? And this girl just starts talking, but it's not like a girl, it's like this AI, but they make it like the most bland AI voice in a time when like AI is supposed to be like, like human like, but no, it's like super boring. Like here's some actual this is actually what I listen to every time I pull up YouTube because of Dynatrace.
My CPU is a neural net processor, a learning
Yeah, that's like super
computer.
not impressive, right? Like, it's just so infuriating. So, generally they'd maybe be up in the B tier, but just for that, just for annoying me, I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the D tier. And maybe if their developers or marketing wants to reach out to me and change their marketing strategy, perhaps they can move up in my tier list and get some more, enterprise adoption. Because right now they're like super small and nobody knows about them. But anyways, that's why they have so many commercials. Um, Also here in the D tier is the Java language. Now, like I said, Java is owned by Oracle, and we all know that Oracle likes to just kind of buy cool things and then sit on them and let them deteriorate. So here's a picture of like Java back in the 90s when it came out. It was so cool, and it was like working on all the systems. And this is it after like a decade of being owned by Oracle. So you can see that the issue with Java is that it's just deteriorated to the point where you can't even use it if you're not using at least like 8 to 10 frameworks to just prop it up. Like you can't, it won't even compile if you're not running at least Spring, Quarkus, Java Node, and that's what really keeps it in the D tier. I think it could have been a contender to be a lot more than that, but unfortunately they were bought by Oracle, and so they are forever chained here to the D tier. Moving right along, there is the SOAP services. Now, SOAP services are legacy services, and but they're not terrible, but as they are only sponsored by Irish Spring Soap and they lost their sponsorship from Dove, I had to move them down from C tier to D tier. I think if they can work hard and gain some more sponsorships, then they can they can totally come back up. Now, rounding out the D tier is the Python language. Now, I know this is controversial, but this is merely because Python requires at least uh, not at least exactly 4 icons in front of it, or it won't compile and it will actually break your tier. maker list, and it will just crash your computer. So just for the sake of compilation, I had to put it in the D tier. I'm sorry. I don't think that truly represents its full potential, but just because of the restrictions on the spacing of where you put it in your tier, like it just had to be here because it just really couldn't fit anywhere else. All right, after that we get into C tier, and this is stuff that is serviceable, but it's definitely not cool. Like you don't want to go out with your friends and admit to using any of these technologies, but they'll totally work. So we're going to start this right off with SQL databases. Now they do a great job at doing their job, which is like storing your datas and getting your datas and like updating your datas, but it's not a NoSQL database. And we all know that if we go out with our friends, to get sushi and we're talking about our solutions and we say we use not a NoSQL database, like we're just gonna be laughed out. We're just gonna be laughed out of the restaurant for being just a baby. So, you know, uh, like I said, serviceable, but you don't want to admit to using it ever, ever, ever. Um, but still dependable. All right, after that, we've got Spring Boot. Now, I know this may be contentious, but Spring Boot started off really cool, like a pair of Doc Martens that just gives you all the support you need. But over the years, it's just had to pile on more and more things to help Java keep propped up. And now it's like it looks like this. Like it just takes so long, and they've been working so hard to get their boot times actually improved. And I heard recently that they actually improved the average boot time of a Spring Boot app to 37 and a half minutes, which is twice as fast as it takes to load a project in IntelliJ. So, I think they're making some good progress. I think they could easily be in B tier, I don't know, this time in 2026 or something like that if they keep on their current pace of improvement, but we'll have to see. Now, here at the end of C tier, which is another controversial pick, I'm going to have to put MongoDB. Yeah. So this really should be in B tier, but the issue with Mongo is that, as you can see, their icon is very much like the Spring Boot. And so it really confuses newer developers because Mongo does not actually compile Java code. So when you try to run your Java code app on MongoDB, it crashes, not locally, but in production. And that's really the issue with it. Like, I think if they fixed those issues and allowed you to run your Java app on the Mongo framework in production, it could easily be at a higher tier. But right now, it's just really barely serviceable. But it is better than a SQL database because it is a NoSQL solution. So, it, it it's not terrible, but it does round out our C tier. So we're gonna go to B tier. B tier is stuff that you can actually go out and talk about using, and you get some moderate amount of respect. Like they won't think you're a computer god like I am, but like they'll still you won't lose any cred. You just won't gain any. So we'll start here with Cosmos DB, which most people think is just a database, but it's actually also the top selling space simulation game on Steam right now. And so it really is a flexible framework that allows you to save your data and also explore space at the same time, which is why it's called Cosmos DB. Now you can run into some problems if your partition gets too big and it eats your enterprise, but those are few and far between. It's only like 80% of the time that you make that mistake. So after that, B tier, we're going to have REST APIs, which we all know are really only exist to give enterprise architects and people of that nature standards to argue about. And so it's really a good conversation starter if you're trying to sound smart or informed. But other than that, it doesn't really provide a lot of intrinsic value, but it is always important to sound smarter than the person next to you and to be more informed and to be able to hold that over them. And so if you become an expert in REST, you can really do that on a consistent basis, which is why it's in the B tier. It really does provide some benefit. But other than just conversational benefit, there's not a lot that it really does for you. Like it doesn't even help you integrate or communicate across different applications. So otherwise, I would definitely have to put it in the A tier for sure. So now we're getting into the A tier, and this is where the big boys start to play. You get obviously whatever's left on here is, oh, excuse me. is amazing. So we're going to start with .NET, and the reason for .NET is because it's the language that I use, and since I'm like literally the best technologist you've ever talked to, you know it's great. Plus, it is the chosen language for Azure Functions, so you know it has to be good. Um, we're going to go ahead and move on from there. There's not much a lot to say other than that it is amazing, and I do use it, and you should too all the time. All right, so here we got gRPC. Now, a lot of people have some misunderstandings about gRPC and its true nature. They think it's a communication protocol, but actually it had its origins somewhere else. If you look at the icon on the G, it, it's kind of got this cool graphic on there, and that's because gRPC started as a way to circumvent Steam's anti-cheat software so that you could actually enable God mode streaming in your Counter Half-Life Strike games so that you can totally pwn all the noobs on the server. So for that, it's obviously an A tier because it not only helps you sound cool in meetings to know what gRPC is, but it also helps your KD ratio in pretty much any game that you would want to play. So massive bragging rights for using gRPC. I definitely recommend it. If you're not familiar with it, you definitely need to get involved. There's an active community. Um, and that's pretty much all we need to say. It's amazing. Now next is Kubernetes. Now why is Kubernetes out here? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, this is like I said, when you're out with your friends and you're all wearing your Prada vests and drinking your $12 bottles of water. Like you want to have something cool to talk about. And one of the coolest things you can talk about is Kubernetes because like nobody knows what it does or how it works. Like even Google's and Microsoft's are still they have entire R&D departments devoted to trying to figure out what Kubernetes actually does. So there's really no going wrong with talking about it because you always sound smart when you're talking about it. And really, if you do something like Azure Kubernetes services, the benefit to that is instead of having like simple CLI commands, you can then expound your CLI commands to like 16 commands just to do one simple thing. Like first you have to AZ log in, and then you have to set your subscription, and then you try to query kubectl, but then it's like, oh no, you got a device login. So then you get to device login, and then after that, you look for your logs on your pods, and it's like, no, you forgot to set your namespace, and so you set your namespace. And all this really just builds really stories for you to tell to your friends about how advanced you've become and how you can turn something that could be maybe just one or two commands into like 16 to 20 because as computer programmers if we're not making it more complicated we're really failing at our job. All right, and now obviously what takes the cream of the crop in all of these things we've been talking about is Vim. If you're using an IDE and you're not using Vim as like a plugin or you're actually just you know really anything that you're not using Vim or VI in, like you can't even call yourself like a real programmer. Like you're just like a little baby programmer. Like you don't even like I don't even know if you know how to use a keyboard, right? And a lot of people are intimidated because when you open like VI or Vim, like it feels like you could be stuck in purgatory. But really what they're doing is they're training you. And by the time you're done, you really ascend to a higher level of programming. And when you graduate, you get to tell everybody about all the cool hotkeys and key combinations that you have. And this is really top tier conversations at your sushi dinners when you're talking to fellow programmers or when you're trying to look down on people who got like meaningless degrees like a law degree or a doctorate degree or like barely scraping by because you can talk about if you're sitting across the table like and someone says like, hey, how did you use Vim to make a sandwich? How did you use Vim to walk your dog? How did you use Vim to grow old alone and die all by yourself? You want to be able to have those answers just like ready and you don't want to have any delays in that. So it's really important. Like I said, Vim is really going to elevate your art, elevate your career, and just make everything amazing. Now that being said, there is one special application here that I haven't named, and that is the secret S tier, and that is, you guessed it, Microsoft Web Forms. It is so advanced that their website actually discourages you from using it because they know it's so powerful that little baby programmers can't handle the awesome power of web forms. I mean, look at this. You can put a data grid in your website and you can view information in tables. You can put two data grids in two websites and view twice as much information. Then you can go and put colors, different colors in your data grids. And look, you can even edit information in your tables and it will go like straight to your database. This is why you don't see any other UI frameworks on my tier list, because they are all inferior and they do not allow you to actually interact with any backend data. And really their UIs are just trash. I mean, you look at this and then you look at something, ugly like material design or really anything Apple's doing, and it's literally decades behind web forms. So obviously web forms takes the top of this tier list. And also, I am the smartest, most bestest programmer on the face of the planet. So you are entitled to your opinions, to disagree with me, but you're wrong and I'm right. And I guess that's about all. So anyways, I hope I've helped you make informed and intelligent decisions as opposed to baby programmer decisions like you're used to making. Um, like I said, make sure you sign up for my Patreon and give me more money so that I can make more tier lists like this and just really help the community grow from like I said, baby little programmers to amazing programmers like me. Thank you for your time. Please be sure to watch the ads at the end of this. It is how I feed my family of myself and my 17 cats. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.